What is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of Fantasy Alphas. We have a full house tonight, finally, after a few weeks. We're back here with Alex, Jack, and JB, and myself, Fantasy Guru Dom. And we have a lot to talk about. We're headed into, finally, fantasy playoffs. And I am definitely interested to hear from the three of you how your season is going, if you guys made the cut. Jack, how are you doing?
Oh, jeez, you got to start with me, Dom. We talked about it. Go ahead, Alex.
I said, tell him, Jack. Tell him.
Yeah. So we talked about a couple weeks ago how our league works is whoever gets the sixth place, whoever has the highest points for gets that sixth seed. So even if you have an 8-6 record, like your boy had, I did not have the highest points for with the remaining people, so I got booted with an 8-6 record. And a big part of that was because I lost to the guy in that top left corner.
No.
So, yeah, the only way I was going to make it was from my record because I didn't have that high points for, which, yeah, it was a little bit of a heartbreaker last night. And it's funny enough, I don't want Chris to jump in too early, but I was relying on the New York Giants last night. I needed them to not let the Packers score as many points as they did, but yep. So I did not make it in either of my leagues. So I have no advice.
Always a disappointment.
Thank you.
The Giants.
Yeah, I know. They killed me this year.
And you, Jack. Always a disappointment.
Nice you.
But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm happy for Alex, though.
Thanks, Chris. It means a lot.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Alex, go ahead. Did you even have a shot to make the playoffs this year?
Well, I just love the fact that you and I are basically sitting in the same position in the consolation bracket. Doesn't matter at this point what your record was or mine was. But in that league, I want everyone to know I was the last place team entering this week, and I smoked the number one seed that's going to be in the playoffs. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
yeah, it doesn't matter.
But, I just want to throw that in there. But so in the other league, in the 14-team league, I made 10 teams make the playoffs, and I was the 10 seed. So playoffs actually started this past weekend, and your boy won.
Okay, a little underdog storyline developing.
Well, this is all thanks to, we'll get into it a little bit. This is all thanks to Mr. Ezekiel Elliott and Desmond Ritter for having the games of their seasons this year. So, the 10 seed's moving on to play the 2 seed. JB, how about you?
Well, I lost this past week, but I'm in the playoffs. So why'd your playoffs start so early for the other league, Alex?
Because there's 10 teams, there's a couple buys that go on. So the 7, 10, 8, 9 matchup played each other first.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Well, I'm in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. There's not many high hopes, guys, to be honest with you. But a lot of the people that are I have who do I have injured that's supposed to be coming back? No, I don't have anybody that's injured that's supposed to be coming back. Tua, I think he got a little banged up, but he's okay. So I should be fine. Tua had a terrible game last week. No, not Tua, Tyreek. I mean, Tyreek got a little banged up, but he should be fine. So I was a bit worried about that because obviously that's Tua's number one guy. But looking pretty solid going into the playoffs, but I don't expect much because these other teams are loaded inside of this 6-team league, and my team is not that loaded. So not that many high hopes. I see why Jack wanted to end the podcast after this week. I didn't know you were down that bad, Jack.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, boys. Oh, yeah. I have nothing good to say today. Yeah. Dom, just please give us some hope here. Give me some hope, please.
I do have a lot of good news from my end. I clinched the 1 seed in my dynasty league after starting 1-3.
Attaboy.
I turned it around and I'm 9-5. And then in my other league, I'm 11-3. So
are you number one there?
Yeah, I have 2 first-round buys. Surprisingly, I don't know how I pulled that off. Later
This
in
is
the
what we used.
Yeah, in the one league, I think I'm gonna win the whole league, but in my dynasty league, I'm faced with so many injuries. I don't know how it's gonna go, but the only thing saving me right now is this bye week coming up because last week I only scored like 120 points, and the average is like usually around like 150. So I've definitely been trending in the wrong direction, even though I clinched the bye week. But I'll definitely talk about more of those injuries later in the injury report. I'm surprised you didn't make the playoffs with an 8 win season, Jack. 8-6. That's not too bad.
Yeah, Dom, you're telling me. I mean, most of I don't know, Alex. You can speak. I think like 6 of us were 8-6, or like it was a very It all came down to last night's game, which was honestly pretty exciting. But I just did get the bad end of the stick.
Yeah,
But
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Like, was it like the top 1 and 2 seeds are 9 and 5, and then 3 through. I think. Well, no, I think. I'm pretty sure whoever got our 6th seed was like 7 and 7. It wasn't like the team right below you, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack just doesn't care anymore.
Yeah, but
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I get it.
But I think it's like our league. It was like the best team was 9 and 5, and the worst team was 5 and 9. Like there were no teams that were completely dominant or that bad.
Yeah.
So at least half of us made it, half of us didn't. It's always JB. What seed are you?
Thanks, Tom.
You have
I'm the 4 teams make it. I'm the 4 seed. All right. It doesn't matter what seed I am.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm in there. Okay.
True. Anything can happen. I mean, I'm probably gonna lose in 2 weeks. I'll talk about that later though. But all right, let's hop into the studs for week 14. With all these injuries, I find it harder and harder to find like these star players and star performances. But Alex, why don't you start off with the studs for week 14?
So I'll kind of reiterate a couple of the people that led me to that big upset in my first round playoff. Going with Mr. Desmond Ridder, picking him up off waivers. Complete shot in the dark because it was basically him or Zach Wilson that I could pick from on waivers. And so Desmond Ridder, 347 yards passing, 15 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns, 28.8 fantasy points. Big time game for him. The most he had in a game this season was, I believe, it was about 22 points, but that was back in like week 5. So it'd been like an eon since he did anything even productive. Then I got Mr. Ezekiel Elliott, looking like old Zeke, Dallas Zeke against our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. 68 rush yards, 7 catches, 62 yards receiving, and a touchdown for 27 fantasy points. Unbelievable game for him. I'll do one more. We're gonna go with the dinosaur, Joe Flacco.
Let's go, Joe. Let's go.
He had over 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns for the Cleveland Browns with I guess a little bit of the upset against Jacksonville. But old dog is balling. Jack.
My turn.
Your turn.
Well, you did take. Huh?
You hearing stuff, Jack?
No, Jack, you're up with your
I'm getting old.
He's totally checked out.
Yeah.
He's totally checked out. He didn't make the playoffs. The Giants suck. You know, a guy named DeVito takes over in quarterback and looks better than his man crush Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
You know, yeah. I don't even remember that guy's name. I can't even believe I said it. But so I mean, are you in or are you out, Jack? I mean, now that
I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're like me, we finished 7-7 this year, which was a big disappointment.
I don't want to be like.
That's right. I know. And I'm not suggesting that you ever aspire to be like me. I'd like to be like JB with the hair. I like that. But I'm just saying, like, I'm out. Like, I'm not paying attention to fantasy football anymore, except listening to you guys drone on and on. You know, I mean, are you in or are you out?
Yeah, Jack.
I'm really giving you a hard time. I know.
Jack's in it. I know his heart.
I know he's in. I know he is in. All right, I'm backing out.
Go ahead, Jack.
All right, hey, let me jump off. I'll come back. Veto, I'm jumping off. I'll come back.
All right, Jack.
BB.
All right, I'll take over his place. I actually think he was having internet connectivity issues.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. He's over at his fiance's house, and as guys, like, our internet has to be perfect. If we don't get it perfect, like, we'll move, for
Yeah,
better internet.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, girls are not.
Did they not live together, Alex? Would you know?
No, they didn't.
No, he's over there. He's over there visiting or something. He's back now, so maybe I gave us a little fill time. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, Chris, let me back in, man.
Are you better? What did you do? Put on a jacket?
I'm better. No, the Wi-Fi at this woman's place might not be the best, but that's okay.
But
Wow.
that necessitates a jacket? Did he put on a jacket?
Chris, I've had this jacket on. Put your glasses on. Oh wait, your glasses are already on.
All right. Well, the important thing is you're back.
All right, cool. So my studs, Alex, I also had Zeke. Yeah, he tore apart the Steelers. I have this guy named Drake London, who was the cause of my demise and the reason that I lost. I don't even know who this guy is, but he had 11 targets for 10 catches and 172 yards. And then I also had Joe Mixon, who we talked about a couple weeks ago. Still my dude. 21 rushes for 79 yards and a TD. 3 catches for 46 yards. So those are my duds. They're studs. Drake London, Alex, Desmond Ridder. I don't get it. The Falcons just decided to show up this week for the first time ever in fantasy football, and it caused me a loss. So, and a playoff spot.
You don't make the playoffs.
Dude, get over it. Neither did you. JB, you're up, buddy.
All right. I got I do Lamar. He's not been playing good. Under 20 in the last 4 out of his 5 games. But he showed up last week. He had 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 70 rushing yards. Looked like the Lamar that won MVP a few years ago. So I'm a big Lamar fan. That was good to see, even though he's in our division. I do enjoy watching Lamar. So it was a fun game to tune into. My other stud, I have James Cook for the Bills. 5 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown, and 58 rushing yards. The Bills only put up 20, so that was pretty good for James Cook. And against the Chiefs defense, who has been playing really good against the run, that was a good performance. So that's what I got for my 2 studs. I feel like I go faster than everybody. Do I talk fast? Does it seem like I talk fast? Do you think?
I mean, you're just clear and to the point, man.
Yeah, that's what I try and be. Just try
Don't
and be
mess
clear and
around
to
here,
the point.
JB, like Alex does.
Yeah. All right, Dom. What do you got for your studs?
So I'll just list a few. You guys already listed Joe Flacco, obviously a stud somehow for the Browns. Ezekiel Elliott. Last week I said to start him. I know JB gave me some slack for that, but
I did. You're the one with the best record, so you must be knowing what you're talking about, Dom.
No, I got lucky with Zeke somehow. I totally whiffed on Dalvin Cook though. He's been terrible this season. I thought he was going to be a sneaky pick, but anyway, the people that we didn't name yet, I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton. He's top 3 in wide receiver touchdowns this year, which I think he's doing that pretty like under the radar. He doesn't have so many passing yard catches, but he's top 3 in TDs, so he's worth mentioning. And I think he's scored a TD in like 6 of 7 games, so he's definitely Russ's number 1 target. And I'm also going to go with Kyron Williams. He had another 100-yard game. That's like his 6th or 7th of the year. And he's surprisingly top 10 in running back points, even though he's missed 5 games in the middle of the season. So I know we've talked about how the running back position hasn't been too crazy in providing fantasy points, but I'm definitely starting Kyron Williams with confidence the next few weeks. He was definitely a good pickup for me. And lastly, I'm gonna go with Justin Fields. He didn't put up crazy numbers last game, but he seems to be putting that team in the right direction with one passing TD, one rushing TD, like 80 rushing yards last game. So I think his stock is rising because the Bears are probably looking to sell high on him because I think they're going to end up with the first or third pick. So they might take Caleb Williams. So I expect them to really try to make Justin Fields look as good as possible for the next few weeks so they could get some good draft capital or players for him. So yeah, other than that, I don't know if one of you mentioned Matt Stafford, but last week I actually said to sit him, so I was wrong on him. But he had 3 TDs versus the Ravens at the Ravens, so that's pretty good. And that connection's back with Cooper Kupp, and he's finally healthy. So Matt Stafford's definitely looking strong for that playoff push. And yeah, that wraps up my studs list. So next up, we got duds for week 14. I definitely had a lot of duds on my team this week, but JB, why don't you start off with this one?
Dom, are you in your same house that you usually are?
I was gonna say, we call out these new digs. Where's the? Oh, you still got a Christmas tree there.
Yeah, still a Christmas tree.
No fireplace.
Did you get thrown out?
No, I'm at my boyfriend's house.
Oh wow!
I'm just
Finally coming out.
That's highly inappropriate, but I applaud you.
No, I'm in the basement. I usually film upstairs, but this time I'm in the basement.
Oh, you guys just have Christmas trees on every floor.
Yeah.
I actually want to know what is on that hat you're wearing. Is that a sailboat? What is that?
That's Mickey Mouse. Athletic Mickey Mouse Nike hat.
Who among you has the most problems? I mean, this kid sings a song for Christmas called Dominic the Donkey, which I have no idea. I still can't associate that with Christmas. Have you guys in your lives ever associated a donkey with Christmas? That's just a yes or no answer.
That's the thing.
A donkey with Christmas. Have you ever associated a donkey with Christmas?
I guess not.
Until 2 weeks ago, I don't think they have.
Yeah.
Now they'll never forget it. They'll never forget it.
And now you have a Mickey Mouse hat on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you guys listen to Delilah? She definitely plays Dominic the Donkey.
Who's
Delilah?
Who's Delilah?
Delilah on I think it's Wish.
What?
99.7.
You don't even know.
Who the hell are you?
Foster.
Wait, what does Mickey Mouse and Delilah have to do with anything?
No.
I have no idea, but
He plays the song Dominic the Donkey.
Yeah, but on what? Nickelodeon? What do you do?
What are you?
Now you're officially living in your parents' basement talking about fantasy football.
Yeah.
Some imaginary friend named Delilah. Your favorite song is Dominic the Donkey, and you watch Nickelodeon.
Whoa,
All right, there's the picture.
Fantastic life.
I just want everybody to know that Jack has officially signed out of the podcast. He's sitting in the back.
What do you mean? I'm here to talk about football, not donkeys and kid shows.
Right. Okay, my.
Jack is all business.
I'm all business.
All right, I'll continue, I guess. So DeAndre Swift, dud for the Eagles. He hasn't scored more than 10 fantasy points since week 11, and he just really hasn't been looking good. The first few weeks, he was looking great, but when the Eagles are playing from behind, in every game, they're just not going to be running the ball much. So he's a dud. He's been a dud for the past few weeks. Another dud I got on here is Josh Dobbs. And I've been whenever he had that debut, we all saw his debut. I was pretty high on him, pretty sold. He looked pretty poised at the podium. But last week he threw 4 interceptions against the Bears. This week he had 63 passing yards. He got taken out of the game for I don't even know who they put in, and I don't know, but he couldn't score. He couldn't score on a single drive. We all saw that game was 0-0 at the 2-minute warning. It's kind of sad, but guess the Vikings ended up kicking a field goal with another QB starting. So yeah, the Dobbs train's probably about over. Big dud this week. That's what I got. What do you got, Alex?
I feel like you're like almost guaranteed to have Josh Dobbs do really well anytime he gets traded. I feel like anytime he gets traded to someone, he balls out for like 2 to 4 weeks, and then he goes back to exactly what he is. So it's like anytime going forward, Josh Dobbs gets traded for some reason, just start him. He's going to be unbelievable for like 2 to 4 weeks. But
yeah, Alex, that's such a good idea.
It is. It worked in the beginning when he was at Arizona. He had like a couple really good games in the beginning of the year, and then he just crashed. Yeah. Look it up. All right, duds. Let's start. George Pickens. He stinks. Steelers stink. So, in turn, he stinks. 5 receptions, 19 yards. Yeah, he's just no bueno. I know a lot of it has to do with the quarterback play, but he's just been a big disappointment this year. Stay with the same team. Steelers stink, so Najee Harris stinks. 29 rush yards, 19 receiving yards. Terrible, gross. Let's see. Let's move on to another AFC North player, and we'll go with Jamar Chase. Even though Bengals scored 34 points, Jake Browning balled out. Jamar Chase did not. 3 receptions, 29 yards. Even though overall statistically he's having a pretty good year, he's had more of these types of games than he should be having. So I'm going to give him the big old dud. Jack?
I got 3 gentlemen as my duds. First one, I got C.J. Stroud. Rough loss against the Jets. He had 91 yards on 23 throws. Was sacked 4 times. He was running around a lot. That Jets defense is pretty solid, though. I know he's in concussion protocol, which is tough. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter for me because I'm not in the playoffs. But for people that got C.J. Stroud, that's a tough look. I know we'll be talking about the waiver wire and my sub for him, so stay tuned for that.
That's so rude.
What?
The guy has a traumatic brain injury. And
The concussion.
That's so rude.
It's not like CTE over here. And then my other guys, I got 2 from the same team. 2 wide receivers from the Bills. Gabe Davis, he should
Terrible.
just stay on the couch. He's
Dude.
done a whole lot of nothing, targeted twice, no receptions, no points, no nothing. And then Stephon Diggs was targeted 11 times, but only 4 receptions for 24 yards. So I know Josh Allen still had a good game. That was a great game. I know it ended in an interesting way. But yeah, just surprised that, I mean, JB mentioned him earlier. I think James Cook just took most of the load, took also the fantasy points with it. So, yeah, the wide receivers for the Bills suffered because of it. So, those are my 3. Tom, how about you?
Yeah, Jack, he definitely did take that heavy load. It definitely worked out for one of my teams. But so we mentioned Jamar Chase. Yeah, he was asked for my Dynasty League. Definitely need him to perform better in the next few weeks. The only other guy I had that we didn't mention yet was Jared Goff. He had 9 points. They've had a couple losses the past few weeks, and his quarterback play definitely, isn't trending in the right direction. But yeah, Jared Goff. I started him, but I should have sat him this past week. 9 points isn't going to be helpful in the playoffs, so I'm definitely going to look for a waiver wire pickup. Should we head to the waiver wire pickups now, or what are we thinking?
Sure.
All right. Cool. So I'm thinking about Matt Stafford to be a replacement for Jared Goff. He's only owned in 33% of leagues, and like I said earlier, he's finally healthy. So, and he definitely has a good receiving core now that Cooper Kupp's healthy. Puka's, he's balling out this year, his rookie year. So I'm looking at Matt Stafford on the waiver. We mentioned Joe Flacco. He's had I think 20 and like 25 points these past 2 weeks. So he seems to be plugging into that Browns offense if you're looking for a QB. And then lastly, I have OBJ. He's owned in 50% of leagues. If you're looking for a deep league flex, I'm going to suggest OBJ. But other than that, those are my 3 waiver wire pickups. Alex, what about you?
I'm going to go 2 for defense this week, boys. They're so hit or miss. They're always changing week to week. I know it's hard to find position players at this point, but defenses it usually seems like it's more matchup related, more so than anything. So going with New Orleans defense against Jack's precious Giants. I think this Tommy DeVito magic is going to end very soon. I think this is kind of like a little Josh Dobbs-esque. And overall,
What do you have against Italians?
So much. Where do I begin? Giants overall offense 32nd for fantasy points overall. So I would pick up New Orleans defense, and then I'd pick up Kansas City's defense. Playing New England, 28th ranked overall for fantasy points, even though they balled out for New England standards this year against the Steelers. Got to pick up Kansas City's defense. Hopefully they'll give you a little points. Jack.
Well, Dom, I also have my boy Joe Flacco, who I honestly didn't even think was still in the league or was still even playing football. I thought I just pictured him with Big Ben just hanging out together on the beach. But he's one of my pickups, especially to replace CJ Stroud since he's hurt. So he's one of the waiver wire pickups that I've been looking at. Another guy, Tajay Spears. I know Derrick Henry had a good week this week, but he's also the catcher out of the backfield for PPR leagues. He's worth a look for sure. He hasn't been necessarily splitting carries, but I know he's available in 71% of leagues, so he's definitely worth the look there. Other guys, Noah Brown has been an interesting waiver wire look. He's had like 0 target. I mean, he's had a couple of targets, like 7 targets the past 2 games. But there's a ton of injuries on the Texans wide receiver core, and they got to throw to somebody. And Noah Brown is rostered, I think, in 60% of leagues, so he's worth a look as well if you need a deep receiver. I mean, I would drop Gabe Davis for him, to be honest. I've given up all hope on Gabe Davis. Last one is Dalton Schultz, also Texans guy. When he's healthy, I think he's playing this week. He's one of CJ Stroud's go-to guys, but I don't even know if you trust, especially with Tank Dell hurt. I don't know if you trust the backup, who I don't know who the backup for the Texans is, but all these guys are going to be worth a look, I think. So, JB, how about you?
I mean, like, you guys are just naming everybody. Can we save some for me? Yeah. I mean,
Alex just named defenses, so there should be actually players out there.
Yeah, you're right.
JB.
I had Noah Brown as well. I said him last week as well, but I think Noah Brown's going to be a good person to go after. Dom shaking his head probably because he had Tank Dell, might have got Nico Collins as well, and now he's injured. So Dom's thinking about some stuff. But one other person I got is Jake Browning. Nobody mentioned, but I picked him up, and I'm really he's thrown better than 70% is 3 times that he started. In the last 2 games, he's ran it in for a running touchdown. So he has that leg threat as well, which is huge for scoring as well and getting points. So I think Jake, you guys mentioned a lot of quarterbacks, but you didn't mention Jake Browning. I think he's going to be the one that I pick up, to be honest with you. I already picked him up, actually, and I'm thinking about starting him over Tua because Tua plays the Jets. It's a crazy take, okay, but I'm really thinking about starting Jake Browning over Tua for this playoff game. Okay. Listen, I'm not the best at fantasy, okay, but I'll just let you guys know where my mind is at right now after Tua's performance last week and coming up against the Jets. Okay.
JB, we've switched spots through this whole podcast, man. I used to be the hot take guy. Obviously, love the Giants. Jack sick, bro. But now you're thinking Jake Browning instead of Tua. I mean, I love the boldness.
That might be the hottest take.
And Alex, he is in the playoffs, and we're not, so we don't have anything to say.
That's so true.
So
Well,
you do your thing.
yeah, you're right.
Were you about to say something about my 6-team league or something, Alex? Or I don't know.
It may
Okay, I don't want to hear anything. Okay, you guys are lucky I'm not in your league. You guys wouldn't even had a shot at the playoffs.
Oh. Yeah, I mean that's a hot take, but I'll back you up, JB. That might be. I was thinking about putting Tua on the situms this week, but I didn't. But before we get into the stardoms and situms of Week 15, there's definitely some more big injuries that we should just take note of before we do that. Justin Herbert, he hurt his finger. He's ruled out for the year. I think Jack maybe had him on. You had him on your team. It was Alex.
All right.
Yeah, but so I guess maybe it's the best you didn't make the playoffs because that would have been just devastating.
It's okay. I have Sam Howell.
Okay, yeah, Sam Howell. Fair enough.
Jeez.
So yeah, another injury. I mean, we highlighted this last week, JV, but there's just so many starting quarterback injuries that are out for the year. It's just crazy. I don't remember seeing this many. And then again, my boy CJ Stroud. I've been hyping him up all year, but he finally got rolled out of a game for a concussion. Hopefully he's just going to miss this next game, which is good because I'm on a bye week. So hopefully he'll be back full force for the playoffs. But his, go-to guy besides Tank Dell, Nico Collins, he also got injured. So I would have, looked at him to fill in Tank Dell's role, but not anymore. And then Jonathan Taylor, another guy that I needed to do well for me in the playoffs. He's still not determined on when he's coming back. So definitely some big injuries, affecting the playoffs now that they're starting. Hopefully they come back full force after my bye weeks, but we'll see. Did you guys see any other injuries this past week that you guys wanted to add in?
I think a big one is Mr. Justin Jefferson. Everybody was all hyped for his return. I think he left at halftime. I don't really know the extent to his injury. I know it's to his back. But he had 3 targets last game. So I think that's a big one. Everybody was riding eye on him. I don't know if he's planning on playing this week. But I think he's worth a note for sure.
I think one that, he played the full game, but I think it's worth noting down the stretch for actual playoffs is Trevor Lawrence's ankle injury. In that game, he was not that mobile compared to what he usually was. I know there's a lot of speculation as to if he should have even been playing this week, considering what happened in his last game. So I think that's probably another kind of key player to be looking at too down the stretch, especially for anyone who has them in their playoffs going forward. Because I feel like for him, that's going to be really susceptible to getting hurt again.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill also had an ankle injury, but he came back.
Did you see why he came?
No, I didn't.
He goes, I saw it was on an ESPN article. He goes in the locker. He's all pissed off that he's hurt. He texts his wife and it's like, "Ah, man, this shit hurt." And she texted him to go back into the game. So he's like, "I guess I got to go back into the game." So he went back out.
That's a good wife right there.
That's a good wife.
She probably had him in fantasy or something.
Oh my gosh. That's funny. I did not hear that, but did he say that in a press conference or something?
Yeah.
All right, let's head into the stardoms for this upcoming week. First week of the playoffs. This might be our most important stardoms yet. So Alex, why don't you start off with this one?
I think you got to start Jordan Love against Tampa. Tampa gives up 5th most fantasy points to starting quarterbacks. He's been hot recently. I think you got to start him. I think he's kind of proven this year that he's a pretty consistent fantasy quarterback, at least probably the last 3 quarters of the year. I think it's a good sample size that he's pretty good for week in and week out. But just to solidify it, I think you got to start him in case you have any of these numerous quarterback injuries. Then I think you definitely got to start David Montgomery against Denver's defense. Denver gives up the most points to running backs in fantasy. It's at home. obviously in the dome. I don't think weather will obviously not be a factor. Got to start Montgomery. JB.
All right. I got Jake Browning against the Vikings.
Gosh.
All right. The Vikings, they held their last opponent to 0 points, but I mean, like, things happen or whatever, Their defense has been doing pretty solid, but if you look at the beginning of the year, it really wasn't as solid as it is now. And Jake Browning's just been tearing through places, putting up these magical numbers. So I got my money on Jake Browning. Okay. That's who I say to start him if you got him. Start him and let's see if he continues this ride. Another one I got is I had him on my duds list, but DeAndre Swift. They're playing against the Seahawks, who gave up 170 yards rushing to the Niners, and Swift has not been doing good at all. But I said earlier it's because the Eagles have been playing from behind. So I don't expect him to be playing from behind against the Seahawks, and I expect them to stick to their bread and butter, which is running the football. So I think DeAndre Swift will get a lot of running yards, and I think Jalen Hurts with his legs will also do what he does best and run around a little bit. So that's what I got for my startums this week. Who hasn't went yet?
Jack hasn't.
Jack? Yeah.
I got a couple Colts here. We're playing those Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, you're really against the
I feel like-
Steelers.
Let's go.
Yeah. I've been embarrassed by the Steelers the past 2 weeks. So I'm taking anybody who's playing against them. So I got Zach Moss. We saw what Zeke did last week. Zach Moss can catch the ball out of the backfield, so I'm looking for him to have a big game. Then Michael Pittman has been tearing it up a little bit. Wide receiver 11, getting targeted double digits every game this season. And you got to trust the stash with Minshew Mania. So I'm looking for a high-scoring game from the Colts, just the Colts, not so much the Steelers. And then my last one is Brock Purdy, who apparently is the favorite to win MVP this year, which is
I think it's Dak Prescott right now, honestly.
I could have sworn I saw on ESPN that it was Brock, but
I think
either way,
the week
they're playing
before
against
this past week it was.
Yeah, they're playing the Cardinals this week, who are legitimately a bad team. I know they didn't look like it against the Steelers, but they are a bad team. So I like Brock Purdy, any of the 49ers against the Cardinals this week. You can add their defense in there too, Alex, since you like defenses so much.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Dom, round it up.
All right, I'm doubling down on the love tonight. I'm going with Jordan Love versus the Buccaneers. I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. He just has some of his plays, he just has that it factor I've been seeing when I'm watching that game. And he's making some good throws. So I think he'll beat the Buccaneers and that, Baker Mayfield's hope for making the playoffs.
When you talk about some of these guys, Dom, you just are over there salivating about them. Jordan Love, man. Oh my
And you
god.
said love like 6 times. Wow.
It's like just something about like a 6'3", 220-pound quarterback.
They could just sling it. He slings it good. Next up, I got Raheem Mostert. He's got 16 touchdowns in the year. He really slams it in that hole when it's in the end zone. And
He does, yeah.
he's at 950 yards rushing. I mean, old man Mostert, he's really parting the Red Sea. And next up, I got Noah Brown. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but he's the last man standing on that wide receiving core. So if CJ Stroud does play, which it's still up for debate, Noah Brown will probably have a big game. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, he had back-to-back games of like 27 and 30 points when the wide receiving core was pretty much non-existent. So really, whoever CJ's throwing to, start him. And then this guy has been sneaky this year. He's a sneaky little bugger. But DeAndre Hopkins on the Titans, okay? He only has 6 TDs, but he almost has 1,000 yards. Like, I thought he was, hovering at Julio Jones statistics, but he's still in it to, make an impact on his team. So, with the Titans winning another game, they're still in the playoff hunt somehow. And I think Will Levis is really going to start throwing it to D-Hop even more than the past few weeks. I know he had a slow start to the season, but I'm starting D-Hop. And then also my guy Kyron Williams. You already know how I love him. I'm biased because he's on my team. I'm going to recommend starting him against the Commanders. And yeah, that's all I got for stardoms. So why don't we hop into sit-ems for week 1 of the playoffs? This is, you got to follow to the listeners out there, you got to follow our analysis right now because this is pivotal. So Jack, why don't you just spew your knowledge that you have?
Jeez. Thank you for that introduction, Dom. Wow. Well, these are pretty hot takes. I'm sitting Lamar against the Jaguars. I know JB, you mentioned earlier, he's been on and off. I think he's going to have another off week. Then I also got Garrett Wilson with the Jets. I think last week was kind of a fluke against the Texans. I don't think Zach Wilson's that good.
Okay.
Huh?
I said Zach's back. I thought maybe.
Yeah, man, put some
we'll
respect.
see. But yeah, those are my 2 sits. I did want to throw another stardom in there because he was also the detriment of me last week. Was Evan Ingram? That dude's been tearing it up the past 4 weeks out of nowhere.
That big boy is tearing it up. He had 2 TDs last week.
Unreal. And the week before that, past 3 weeks, he's been unreal. So add him to your stardoms. But Alex, what do you got for sitting people?
Well, I'm going to go on the other side of that Baltimore-Jacksonville game, and I'm going to say sit Trevor Lawrence. Baltimore gives up the least amount of fantasy points to quarterbacks. He has a bum ankle, and it really showed last game. And Trevor Lawrence is known to be streaky and turnover prone at times, and this game just has that written all over it of kind of a disaster for him. So I say sit him, and I'm going to kind of reiterate what you said, Jack. Sit Gabe Davis, even though he's wide receiver 30, so it's kind of justified to usually play him, but he's been terrible recently, especially just putting up that big goose egg last week. Dallas gives up 7th least amount of wide receiver points in fantasy. Sit Gabe Davis because he stinks. And then I'm going to say actually to sit George Kittle. George Kittle is another one where he's either super on or he's super off. He just had a pretty decent game last week. Arizona gives up 7th least amount of tight end points. And Purdy seems to really like throwing more so to Ayuk and Debo and CMC, more so than Kittle. So I say actually sit him.
Yeah, Gabe Davis has been the past 3 weeks. It's been 0 points, 22 points, 0 points.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. What are you sipping on, Jack?
Me?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I saw you sipping on some stuff.
It's just straight H2O.
Okay. I didn't know how badly that loss yesterday got to you.
Yeah, it's lingering. I'm actually just coming down from the hangover. So.
All right, I'll get right into my sit-ems. I got Dom's guy, CJ Stroud. He left last game with concussion protocol. He could come back in time, but if he comes back in time, Nico Collins hasn't been cleared yet, and if he does come back, he'll be banged up. They're playing against a Titans defense that kind of harassed Tua a bit, so we'll see what happens there. But team is crumbling at the wrong time. We'll see what goes on with that Texans team if they make the playoffs and what happens. For another sit-em, I got DJ Moore. He's looked great since Justin Fields returned, putting up more than 20 fantasy points past couple weeks, but I just don't see it happening against the Browns. That's all I really got to say there. Just don't see it happening against the Browns. So I say sit DJ Moore. Dom, got some takes here?
Yeah, I have a few guys up my sleeve that I was, debating on talking about, but I'll start off with Keenan Allen versus the Raiders. I mean, with Justin Herbert out, don't even watch the Chargers at this point. Austin Eckler's been ass all year, and Keenan Allen, I don't think he'll do good with the backup. It's just my gut instinct. So definitely sitting Keenan Allen versus the Raiders. Marquise Brown, I'm sitting versus the 49ers, and I'm also sitting Kyler Murray against the 49ers. That defense is just too lethal, and I mean, I think they're just going to destroy the Cardinals, so I don't expect big games from them. Also, I'm going to sit Trevor Lawrence, as Alex already mentioned, versus the Ravens. 3 interceptions last week. He probably shouldn't have played last week. I was kind of hoping he would sit, just get maybe a little bit more healthy, but 3 interceptions last week, he's definitely probably going to do worse versus the Ravens, fantasy point-wise. So I'm sitting him, and I don't want to sit Jamar Chase, but he's been very up and down this year. I'm really hoping JB's right about Jake Browning, so I'm not going to say sit Jamar Chase because he's literally one of the only good guys I have left on one of my fantasy teams. So, who else do I have here? And I'm definitely sitting any Steeler. I'm actually not even watching any of the games the rest of the year. It's just unwatchable. I mean, you can't lose to the 2 worst teams, and honestly, they should sit Mike Tomlin at this point. He needs to reevaluate some stuff.
But we got rid of Matt Canada.
Yeah.
What do you mean our team's not fixed?
They should clean up. They should just clean house. Honestly,
I think everybody's feeling that.
Yeah.
So let me pose a question to you guys, since we talked about both of them kind of a lot tonight. So going forward, would you take Tommy DeVito or Jake Browning as your quarterback going forward? Like if you had to for this fantasy week, you had to pick them up, would you take Tommy DeVito or would you take Jake Browning?
Jake's been playing better. Statistically, Jake has been playing better. DeVito's just got all those Italians in the stands going crazy. Got the whole.
Why I asked was just because of how DeVito played last game when he had like 70 rush yards with everything. So
I think the system's just better in Cincinnati. I think the OC's better. I think the coaching's better, which is why I would take Jake Browning. But what are you guys' thoughts?
I'd take
the Giants playing this week. I mean, obviously I'm going to go with the Giants. I mean, I got to stick on the bandwagon.
Good God.
Giants are playing the Saints. Bengals are playing the Vikings at home. I don't know. I think I like the receiving core better in Cincinnati. I mean, they can just get open, which makes it a lot easier for Jake Browning.
T. Higgins is coming back too.
That usually helps as a receiver to be open.
Yeah, and it helps the quarterback there, smart Alec. Yeah, so I kind of like Jake Browning. Yeah, I think Tommy DeVito, I mean, you mentioned I think he's very much like a Josh Dobbs. I think he's just riding this high, and ESPN and NFL need to talk about something. So he's all over the news, and his agent, who looks like Tony Soprano's twin brother. Tom, how about you?
It's a tale of what is it? What's the saying? I don't know. Two
cities.
Two cities. Yeah.
This is gonna.
I am completely embarrassed.
I can't wait for this take. Chris, come on, that was gonna be an awesome take.
I mean, it can still be an awesome take, but boy, education in this country. Who wrote that? Do you know who wrote A Tale of Two Cities?
Edgar Allan Poe.
Was that a serious answer, Dom, or Edgar Allan Poe?
Agatha Christie.
What? Are you're screwing with me because I'm old. No. Seriously. Charles
Dickens.
There you go. Agatha Christie.
Who said Charles Dickens? Other than Chris, who said that? Did you search it up?
I think that was Alex.
No, it was Jack.
Oh, it was Jack?
Yeah.
It was Jack.
I'm cultured.
Jack
searched it up.
All right, and I'm out.
That's too much to talk about Dickens on this podcast. But I'm gonna finish take. So, okay, my mind is saying, Jake Browning. As we mentioned, the wide receiving core much, much better. I think I'm gonna trust Jake Browning more, but my heart, my genealogy, my Roman ancestors are calling from the homeland, and they're telling me, Tommy DeVito, Tommy DeVito, and so I'm gonna, maybe I'll trust the Romans and those nice aqueducts they have over there. So maybe Tommy DeVito's still in my heart a little bit. And, his agent, I saw he was kissing Tommy DeVito's father on the cheek. So I'm really liking the vibe they're bringing on to that Giants.
I absolutely cannot leave this alone any longer. I mean, are you drinking during this?
I love how he's specifically saying Romans and not Italians.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost as if it's like exciting to him. I mean, seriously, what is it with you? I mean,
I don't know, man. I mean, Tommy DeVito, he might be like my third or fourth cousin. You know how that works with us. Everyone's our cousin.
That's not what it sounds like to the rest of us. And if it is, you're kissing cousins. That's what's going on right there. I mean, come on now.
This isn't the first time you've behaved like this on this podcast.
I know. I'm starting to think that Dom is like an onion. There's lots of layers to peel off. But by the time you get to the inside, it still tastes like shit. I don't know. Nah, I'm just kidding, Dom. But
no, you're right.
Yeah.
I think I like the vibe of Tommy DeVito more than what's his name? I don't even remember it at this point. The guy that just got $200 million and stole the bank from the Giants. Daniel Jones. I mean, yeah, I'd be rocking with Tommy DeVito.
Is that 4 years guaranteed?
I don't know how that works.
I think most of it was guaranteed. Yeah, because he's like guaranteed $40 million a year or something like that. I think that was a 5-year, maybe.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
I'll pose a question. So now that Joe Flacco is out of retirement, why don't we call up Big Ben for the Steelers? I mean, we got Mitch, we got that guy Kenny Pickett.
Ben was not playing good.
Oh my god,
he would probably be the best out there, but I mean,
Ben.
Apparently on his podcast, he was saying he can still throw the ball, but his lower half of his body is shot. He couldn't move anywhere. So
yeah, he might be right on that one.
I feel like you play Mason Rudolph. I mean, it's Christmas season. How do you not go with Rudolph?
That's a good take.
You're so festive. It's not.
See what I did there?
Rudolph, the red-nosed quarterback. I like it.
We picked up that one guy, Dorsky or whatever. I don't know. Zadorsky, the quarterback.
McSorley's on the practice squad.
Oh yeah,
McSorley.
You mean McSorley?
Yeah.
you just assumed that Pittsburgh picked up a quarterback on the practice squad and his name would be Polish, didn't you? You did. So, or some sort of sausage, right? Right.
I just remember hearing Orsi. That's all.
Yeah, Orsi. Trace McSorley, right? Trace McSorley from Penn State. Yeah, they picked him up. So I'm still reeling from this whole Dom episode.
Oh my gosh. Why don't we get back on track for the last 5 minutes as a professional like I am? So, last topic of the night. This could be our last show of the season, according to Alex, Jack, and JB, but we'll see. But game of the week: Cowboys versus Bills, Ravens versus Jags. What are we going with?
Is it just
Alex?
those two options, or?
Are you only giving us options? Or
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
Are you forcing this on us?
I won't force anything on anyone.
Gee.
But those are my game of the weeks. What about you, Alex?
Tom, can you fix your hat? Can you just pull it front and center, please? Yep, there it is.
There we go. Oh, I'm going Baltimore at Jacksonville. I think there's a lot of question marks around the quarterback play, as we already mentioned. But there's always still a potential if both of them are on their A games that it could be a shootout. And a lot of good wide receiver play on both sides of the ball there. And I think it'll be a good game.
Fair
J-
enough. Jack, JB, what do you got?
I'll go ahead. I'll just say Cowboys versus Bills. There's not many games to pick from, honestly. I don't see anything that's really too interesting. So we'll just do Cowboys versus Bills. This could be a really high scoring game. It also could be a really low scoring game. So I'm not sure what to expect, but I assume the quarterbacks are both going to play well. We saw how Josh Allen played last week, and we see how Dak Prescott played last week. So I expect the quarterbacks and the receiving core to put up good numbers, regardless of how good those defenses are. Jack?
I'm going to go with Eagles and Seahawks. I think the Eagles have a bounce back week after that loss against the Cowboys. I don't know if Geno Smith is playing, if he's back. They had Locke play last week. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what the Eagles can do. If they can get back to being the talk of the town or not. I also kind of like this 2T game, Texans versus Titans. Those are two playoff hopeful teams. Will Levis and potentially CJ Stroud. Yeah, I'm liking a lot of points in that game. A lot of running the football. We talked about a lot of receivers for the Texans who are hoping to pan out. So that's an interesting one. All right, Dom, wrap this thing up here.
I'm going with the Broncos versus Lions, the game everyone wants to watch. I want to see how legit the Lions are. Is Jahmyr Gibbs, fantasy relevant the rest of the year or, next year? We'll see. Is Jared Goff, is he startable? I don't know. I definitely have him as my QB1 on my 11-3 team. So because Joe Burrow got hurt, so I really hope he performs. But the past few weeks he hasn't been doing too great. And as always, I want to see Russell Wilson do good. I know he has a lot of haters these days, but I hope the Broncos sneak into the playoffs in real life. So I'm definitely going to be watching that game. And the obvious ones we already mentioned, so no sense talking about them again. But yeah, any other final advice before we sign off here, guys? I know Alex is itching for one last hot take.
Never wear that Mickey Mouse hat again.
Let's go. That's great. That's great.
Good luck to Jack in his consolation game.
You too, buddy. I hope I play you in the consolation bracket.
I'm going to smoke you again.
We'll have to do a loser has to do something crazy.
I hope so.
Hey, next year, boys, let's maybe get like a 4-man fantasy alpha squad here. Fantasy football league.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, and we should have Antonino in it, Chris.
Yeah.
He loves fantasy football so much. He definitely wants another team.
That's true.
Are you talking about me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, you?
I'm too busy trying to get the music going.
Chris is like, I didn't sign on for another year producing.
Yeah, I don't remember signing. I don't remember the pen. I don't remember signing anything. I'm sure as hell not getting paid. So, all right, guys, great show tonight.
As always, thanks again to our listeners and viewers for watching, and tune in again next week to hear how the playoffs are going for some of us. So, thanks again.
Toodaloo, boys and girls.